I've seen a lot in my 10 years as a security guard, but nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for that one night in the parking garage. It was a Tuesday, just past midnight, the kind of quiet where every little sound echoes and makes you jumpy. I was doing my usual patrol on the 3rd level, the concrete maze dimly lit by those buzzing fluorescent lights. That's when I heard it. A small, muffled sob. My hand immediately went to my radio. I moved slowly, my footsteps silent on the cold concrete floor. Following the sound, it led me to the far corner, behind a row of parked cars. Peeking around the back of a big SUV, I saw her, a young woman, probably in her early 20s, huddled against a concrete pillar. She was crying, her shoulders shaking. My first thought was that she was lost or had locked her keys in her car. I was about to step out and ask if she needed help, but something stopped me. A gut feeling. I stayed hidden, just watching for a moment. Then, I saw him. A man stepped out from behind the pillar opposite her. He was tall, dressed in dark clothes, and he was holding something that glinted under the weak light. A knife. My blood ran cold. He wasn't pointing it at her, just holding it loosely by his side. But the threat was there, hanging in the air like a thick fog. The girl flinched when she saw him. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. Just go away." The man didn't say a word. He just stood there, staring at her. The silence was terrifying, stretched thin and ready to snap. I knew I had to do something, but protocol was clear. Don't engage a suspect with a weapon. Call for backup. My fingers tightened on the radio, but I hesitated. Waiting for backup could take minutes, and in that time, anything could happen. I decided to make my presence known, hoping to de-escalate the situation. I took a deep breath, stepped out from behind the SUV, and shone my heavy-duty flashlight right in the man's face. "Everything all right over here?" I asked, my voice as steady and commanding as I could make it. The light blinded him for a second. He squinted, raising a hand to shield his eyes. The girl looked up at me, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and relief. "This is a private matter," the man growled, taking a step back into the shadows, trying to get out of the flashlight beam. He was still holding the knife. "Stay out of it." "Sir, this is a private parking garage, and I'm the one in charge of security," I said, keeping my light fixed on him. "So right now, this is my business. I need you to drop the knife." Slowly, I kept my tone calm, but firm. You learn in this job that panic is contagious, and the last thing I needed was for this to escalate. The girl started sobbing again, louder this time. "He won't leave me alone," she cried out. "He just keeps following me." This changed things. This wasn't a random mugging. They knew each other. The man looked from her to me, his face a mask of frustration and something else. Desperation? "I'm not going to hurt her," he said, his voice cracking a little. I just need to talk to her." "Talking doesn't usually involve a knife, sir," I countered, taking a cautious step closer. "Put it on the ground, then we can all talk." I was trying to build a bridge, to give him a way out without losing face. He hesitated for what felt like an eternity. The blade in his hand seemed to pulse with the fluorescent lights. The girl was now watching him, her crying reduced to hitched breaths. The whole garage was silent, except for the hum of the lights and our breathing. Finally, with a deep, shuddering sigh, he bent down and placed the knife on the concrete. Then he straightened up and kicked it away. It skittered across the floor, stopping a few feet from me. I immediately relaxed, but only slightly. I motioned for the girl to come towards me. "Come on, miss. Come over here." She scrambled to her feet and practically ran behind me, using me as a human shield. I picked up the knife, a standard kitchen utility knife, and secured it. Now that the immediate danger was gone, I could finally focus on figuring out what was actually happening. "All right," I said, turning back to the man, who now just looked defeated. "What's this all about?" He slumped against the pillar and slid down to the floor, burying his face in his hands. "It's my fault," he mumbled. "It's all my fault." The girl, still hiding behind me, peeked out. "He's my brother," she said softly. My eyebrows shot up. This was the last thing I expected. His name is Mark. My name is Sarah. I looked from Sarah to Mark, completely bewildered. Your brother. Then what in the world is going on? Why the knife? Sarah took a shaky breath. Mark, he's been having a really hard time. He lost his job a few months ago, and he's been struggling with his mental health. He just shuts down. He won't talk to anyone. Not me. Not our parents. Her voice was filled with a deep sadness. Tonight, we had a huge argument. I told him he needed to get help, that we were all worried sick. He just stormed out. I followed him here. I was so scared of what he might do. Mark looked up, his face streaked with tears. I wasn't going to hurt her, he said, his voice raw. I would never hurt her. The knife. I didn't know what to do. I felt so trapped. I grabbed it from the kitchen before I left. I think I just wanted to feel in control of something. Anything. He looked at his sister. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry I scared you. The tension in the garage completely deflated, replaced by a heavy wave of sorrow. This wasn't a criminal and a victim. It was a family in crisis. I lowered my flashlight. The three of us were just people, caught in a moment of pain under the harsh garage lights. Mark, I said gently, kneeling down to his level. It sounds like you're going through a lot. But what you did tonight, it's not the answer. You scared your sister half to death, and you could have gotten into serious trouble. It just nodded, unable to look me in the eye. But you're not alone in this, I continued. There are people who can help you figure things out. People who are trained for this. I pulled out my phone and looked up a local 24-hour mental health crisis hotline. I showed the number to both of them. This is a good place to start. They can connect you with counselors, support groups, everything you need. You don't have to carry this by yourself. Sarah came and sat down next to her brother, putting an arm around his shaking shoulders. He leaned into her, and for the first time that night, it looked like a dam had broken. He just let it all out. I stood back, giving them their space. I did have to call the police. It was protocol when a weapon was involved. But when they arrived, I explained the whole situation. It wasn't a crime scene. It was a mental health crisis. They were understanding. They spoke with Mark and Sarah, confirmed their story, and connected them with a mobile crisis team that could provide immediate support. As I watched them leave, not in handcuffs, but with a support worker who was talking to them with kindness and compassion, I felt a profound sense of relief. That night could have ended so differently. It was a stark reminder that you never truly know what's going on behind someone's actions. Sometimes, the most threatening situations aren't born from malice, but from a place of deep pain and desperation. Walking back to my little security booth, the garage felt different. Quieter, but not in a scary way. It was a peaceful quiet. That night taught me a valuable lesson. My job isn't just about watching for threats. It's about seeing the people behind them. And sometimes, the most powerful tool you have isn't a flashlight or a radio, but a little bit of understanding. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out. There is always help available, and you don't have to face it alone. Thanks for watching. The early sun made the asphalt shimmer faintly, and the seagulls circled above the dumpsters. That back section of the parking lot had been mostly empty since Christmas. Only a few abandoned carts and one or two old vehicles that hadn't moved in months. But as I turned toward the far corner, something caught my eye. A small gray Honda Civic was parked near the old delivery area, half hidden behind a concrete pillar, angled strangely between the faded white lines. I'd seen it before, maybe once or twice over the past few months. At first, I assumed it belonged to an employee working long shifts, or maybe to one of those people who sleep in their cars overnight. It wasn't unusual. Walmart parking lots attract a few of them. But that morning, something felt wrong. The car windows were fogged from the inside, stir with dust and grime. The tires looked low, almost flat, and there were cobwebs stretched across the mirror. I stopped the truck about 15 feet away and rolled my window down. A faint sour smell drifted in. Subtle at first, but enough to make me pull my head back. It wasn't the usual trash smell from the dumpsters. It was heavier, thicker. I stepped out and walked slowly toward the car. The closer I got, the stronger the odor became. My stomach twisted. and I felt my chest tighten. I called out, "Hello, security. You all right in there?" No movement. I circled to the driver's side. The windshield had a thick film of dust, and the wiper blades had fused to the glass. That's when I saw it, faint outlines through the window. Something pale slumped across the front seat. I leaned closer, shielding my eyes from the sun. It wasn't just something, it was a person. A woman. She was sitting upright, her head tilted back against the seat, her hands folded in her lap like she'd fallen asleep. Her face was barely visible through the haze, but it was clear enough to see that the skin had turned an unnatural shade, grayish, dry. I froze. Every sound around me, the traffic, the birds, just disappeared. I stumbled back and grabbed my radio, my voice shaking as I called it in. "This is Unit 3. I need police at the back lot now. Possible deceased occupant in a vehicle." Within 10 minutes, a patrol car pulled up. The officers taped off the area and told me to stand by while they confirmed what Eddie found. When one of them opened the driver's door, the smell hit everyone at once. The kind that burns your throat and stays with you even after you step away. They covered their noses and said quietly, "Yeah, she's been here a long time." Later, detectives came. I gave my report and watched from a distance as they worked around the Honda. They covered the windows with tarps and began documenting everything. Eventually, one of the officers told me the woman's name. Lauren Cho, 22 years old, reported missing months earlier. She had been missing since December, 3 whole months, and she had been right there in the Walmart parking lot the entire time. They told me her body had gone unnoticed because of the tinted windows, the car's position, and how quietly that part of the lot was used. Some people had parked just a few spaces away, never realizing what was inside. When the coroner's team arrived, they opened the back door to remove her remains. A small purse was found on the passenger seat along with a water bottle and her phone, dead from battery. It looked like she had gone to sleep inside her car one night and never woken up. No signs of foul play, no struggle. Just a young woman who disappeared from her family's life, sitting silently in her car while months passed and people parked, shopped, and drove home just feet away. I couldn't get that image out of my mind. The way the morning sun hit the windshield, the stillness of her hands. For weeks after, I avoided that section of the parking lot. Even driving by made me uneasy. The company moved my patrol route temporarily, but it didn't help much. Every time I saw an old car parked alone, I'd check the plates, the windows, anything. A few months later, Walmart had the car towed away after the investigation ended, but the oil stains and tire marks stayed there for a long time. Sometimes, I'd see shoppers walk in their carts right past that spot, laughing or talking on their phones, never realizing what had once been there. The story spread around the staff pretty fast. Everyone started remembering things, how they'd seen the same car during the holidays, how it never moved, how some thought it was abandoned. Even the night staff admitted they'd driven by it countless times without thinking twice. It wasn't their fault. It's just that nobody expects something so final to be sitting in plain sight. After the case made the news, her family gave a statement how they'd filed a missing person report, how they'd searched every city around the area. They couldn't understand how her car had been parked there the whole time in a place with daily patrols, cameras, and security. Neither could I. That's what still haunts me. Not just that I found her, but how easily we could all drive past something like that without noticing. Every night I worked after that, I found myself checking the dark corners of a lot, not for thieves or trespassers, but for silence, for still cars, for forgotten stories. Because when you've seen what can hide in a parking lot full of people, you realize some of the scariest things aren't in the shadows at all. They're right in front of you, and you just don't see them. My job is the kind of 9-to-5 that regularly bleeds into a 9-to-7, sometimes an 8. I work as a data analyst for a mid-sized logistics company. It's not exciting, but it's stable. Our office is in one of those sprawling low-rise corporate parks on the edge of town, surrounded by manicured lawns and an ocean of asphalt parking lots. During the day, it's a bustling place. At night, it's one of the quietest, most isolated places you can imagine. This particular night, a Tuesday in late autumn, had been a long one. A critical report had to be finished, and I was the last one in the office to get it done. When I finally hit send on the email, my body ached with fatigue. I packed my bag, turned off the lights, and the sudden plunge into near darkness was jarring. The only light in our entire wing came from the green glow of the exit sign at the far end of the hall. The walk to the main lobby felt longer than usual, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The security guard, a friendly older guy. I used to be a workaholic. I'd stay at the office until the city lights were the only thing keeping the darkness at bay. My colleagues would joke that I was trying to become part of the office furniture. It was one of those late nights, probably around 11 p.m., when I finally decided to call it a day. The office building was eerily silent, the kind of quiet that makes every little sound echo. The hum of the vending machine, the distant clatter of the elevator arriving it, all felt amplified. As I stepped into the elevator, the reflection in the polished steel doors caught me off guard. I looked tired, my eyes heavy-lidded. The descent to the underground parking garage felt unusually slow, each floor number lighting up with a soft chime that seemed to stretch time itself. When the door slid open, a wave of cool, damp air hit me. The garage was vast, a concrete cavern filled with rows of empty parking spaces. My car was parked in a far corner, a spot I usually avoided but had been forced into that morning. My footsteps were the only sound, a rhythmic tap-tapped against the concrete floor. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered intermittently, casting long, dancing shadows that played tricks on my eyes. It was in one of these moments of shifting light that I first saw him. He was standing near a concrete pillar, about halfway between me and my car. He was just a silhouette at first, a tall, slender figure shrouded in the dim light. I couldn't make out any features, but his stillness was unnerving. I clutched my keys a little tighter, the metal digging into my palm. My heart started to beat a little faster. Probably just another late worker like me, I told myself, trying to rationalize the unease creeping up my spine. I kept walking, my paces steady, trying to project a confidence I didn't feel. As I got closer, I could see he was wearing a dark, long coat, even though it wasn't particularly cold. His head was bowed, his face obscured by the shadow of the pillar and maybe a hat. He didn't move. He just stood there, a silent sentinel in the empty garage. I decided to give him a wide berth, veering slightly to the left to create more distance between us. As I passed the pillar, I risked a quick glance in his direction. My breath hitched in my throat. He had lifted his head, and even in the poor light, I could see he was looking directly at me. I couldn't see his eyes, but I could feel his gaze, intense and unwavering. A cold dread washed over me. I picked up my pace, my casual walk turning into a brisk stride. The sound of my footsteps seemed to mock me, announcing my growing panic to the entire garage. Then I heard it. Another set of footsteps, slow, deliberate, and heavy. They started just after mine quickened, as if he had waited for me to show my fear. I didn't dare to look back. My mind was racing. Was this a mugging? Something worse. My car was still about 50 feet. Away it felt like a mile. The footsteps behind me grew faster, matching my own accelerated pace. The rhythmic tap-tap-tap was now a frantic scuffle. I broke into a run. My bag bounced wildly against my side, and the keys in my hand felt slick with sweat. The sound of running behind me was undeniable now, a heavy, pounding rhythm that seemed to be getting closer with every agonizing second. I fumbled for the unlock button on my key fob, my thumb shaking so badly it took 3 tries. The car chirped and the lights flashed, a beacon of hope in the terrifying darkness. I reached the driver's side door, yanking it open and throwing myself inside. My hands were trembling as I jammed the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life, and I slammed the door shut, hitting the lock button with a desperate jab. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. I looked in the rearview mirror, my breath catching in my throat. What? Bear, standing just a few feet behind my car, bathed in the red glow of my taillights. For the first time, I saw his face. It was pale and gaunt, with deep-set eyes that seemed to swallow the light. But the most horrifying part was his smile. It was wide, unnatural, stretching his lips into a grotesque grin that revealed no teeth. Just a dark, empty void. It was a smile of pure, malevolent amusement. He wasn't out of breath. He wasn't even moving. He just stood there, smiling that terrible smile, as if he had enjoyed the chase. I threw the car into reverse, the tires screeching in protest as I peeled out of the parking space. I didn't care about being careful. I just needed to get away. I swung the car around and sped towards the exit ramp. my eyes glued to the rearview mirror. He remained in the same spot, a dark figure shrinking in the distance. That horrifying smile burned into my memory. I didn't slow down until I was several blocks away, my car swallowed by the relative safety of the city's main streets. Primera pull ver, my body shaking uncontrollably. I tried to call the police, but my voice was a choked whisper. What would I even say? That a man smiled at me in a parking garage. It sounded insane. But I knew what I saw. I knew the terror I felt was real. The next day, I went to security. I asked them to check the camera footage from the parking garage. The security guard, a kind-faced older man named George, pulled up the recordings. We watched the footage of me walking to my car, my pace quickening, breaking into a run. We saw me jump into my car and speed away. But there was no one else there. The footage showed me running from nothing. The space where the man had stood, where he had smiled that awful smile, was completely empty. George looked at me with a mixture of pity and concern. He suggested I was probably just overworked, stressed out, my mind playing tricks on me. I wanted to believe him. I really did, but I couldn't shake the image of that face. That smile. I quit my job the following week. I couldn't bring myself to go back into that building, to step into that garage. I moved to a new city shortly after, hoping a fresh start would help me forget. But I never have. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm walking to my car or just sitting in a quiet room, I get that same feeling of being watched, a cold dread that trickles down my spine, and I see that smile in my mind, a dark void in a pale face. Was he a ghost? A figment of my exhausted imagination? Or was he something else? Something that the cameras couldn't see? I don't have any answers. All I know is that I never work late anymore, and I never ever park in the corner of a dimly lit garage. Thank you for listening. Stay safe out there, and maybe don't be the last one to leave the office.